Right then, I just wanted to record a quick video as an update on yesterday's Poisson Distribution videos. As you'll have noticed, if you watch the videos, you'll saw that I posted a video showing the predicted scores, score lines and results, and unders and overs for all of the Championship 3 o'clock games yesterday, which was the 29th of January. So I just wanted to have a look and show you how it sort of panned out. And I think it was quite interesting actually if we look at the score lines, certainly. So Huddersfield Stoke, as we already saw in the example, was great, 1-1. That's how it finished, and that would have been a brilliant profit if we'd have Dutched these scores. I'm going to do a separate video on Dutching. I'm going to show you in a little second what Dutching involves very briefly, so bear with me on that. QPR Reading, that ended 4-0, so we easily would have got the scoreline correct, the winner correct in terms of QPR being the winners at 1.79. I don't know what the Betfair odds were, but that's what we were offered through the Poisson. So that came in, but it wasn't unders. And the score lines, I mean, if you were Dutching 1 and 2-0, you probably would have got out with a profit if you'd have cashed out at 2-0. I'm not sure exactly what time the third and fourth goals came. I think they came fairly early in the second half, so you might have struggled, but you probably could have got out at scratch with that. Millwall West Brom didn't go as planned, although recent form suggests that West Brom would lose that, to be honest, but that's not what the data suggested. So it was actually Millwall 2-0. It did finish unders. If you did have the 1-0 scoreline in there in your Dutching, so you might have been able to get out of that as well, 0-0 and 1-0. So you'd have been in the game for quite a long time with those score lines until the Millwall second goal. So I think, although it's a red in terms of the exact scoreline didn't come up, I think the way you could trade it, it probably would have actually been profitable. Middlesbrough Coventry was a good one. So Middlesbrough won the game 1-0, and we had the 1-0 scoreline there, and it was under 2.5, so really accurate there. Hull Swansea 2-0, so it was unders, and we had the 1-0 scoreline. You'd have struggled with Dutch in this one though. Hull won it against the sort of form book. I did mention the new manager bounce with Shota Arveladze, which data doesn't take account of. So yeah, Fulham Blackpool expected goals in this one. Well, the data expected goals because of the trend of Fulham scoring goals. I definitely expected a Fulham win, and it ended 1-1. There was a massive stoppage due to a fatality, as it turned out, in the crowd, which was very, very sad, of one of the Fulham fans, and it knocked the game a little bit. It sort of was really disjointed. It wasn't overs and scoreline, but the scoreline, you would have been in for quite a long time because Blackpool took the lead. Or did they? No, sorry, Fulham took the lead early. And then when Blackpool equalised, 2-1 would have really looked appealing. The odds would have been really high for 2-1. And also 3-1, so you would have been in with two scorelines still in play. So you would have got out with a profit in that for the Dutching. Barnsley-Bournemouth ended 0-1, so brilliant. Everything went to plan with that one. Bournemouth won under 2.5 and the correct scoreline. Preston-Bristol was 2-2. This was a brilliant result. So we predicted a Preston win, but we predicted over 2.5 and also 2-2, which would have been really long odds on the correct score markets. You would have made a great profit there, Dutching those score lines. Luton Blackburn 0-0. Again, the odds suggested that the draw was quite possible with 3.85. It wasn't sure whether it was going to be a high scoring game or a low scoring game massively, but the scoreline suggested unders, to be fair. And again, you'd have been in this game for quite a long time because you had the 0-1 to Blackburn. Blackburn were the favourites. So with it being 0-0 up until the 60th, 70th minute, 1-0 to Blackburn. The odds on that would have come steaming in. So you would have got out with a profit there as well. Peterborough Sheffield United was 2-0. I watched that. Peterborough were woeful attacking. I had a bet on corners, and they didn't have a single corner in the whole game. Crazy. So their odds were way too short according to this. But we did get the Sheffield United win and the unders. And again, you'd have been involved in this for quite a long time as well. 0-1. The Sheffield second goal came fairly late on. So you would have got out with a profit in that too, Dutching. And now tomorrow we've got 2 games again. We've got Derby Blues, sorry for my shorthand being a Birmingham fan. Derby to win 1.96. The draw looks quite appealing as well. You've got to bear in mind that it underestimates draw, so anything around 3.5 is suggesting there's a good chance of a draw. So that looks, decent. Blues at 4.46. Unders, I'm not surprised at all. And 1-0, 1-1, 0-0. And then Cardiff Forest, we've got a very long odds for a Cardiff win. The draw looks on, and a Forest winner favourite. Again, unders, massively unders this one. So all of these outcomes, there's a percentage. Poisson gives a percentage of whether it will be under or over. So there's, 55% that it's going to be unders, 45% that it's going to be overs. So, the equivalent obviously will add up to 100%. This was something like 70% unders. So this was heavily backed at being unders according to Poisson. 0-1 to Nottingham, 0-0 or 0-2. So they're the ones you'd be dutching. So I just wanted to mention the dutching. So I've put this into Blues. So we've got 1-0 to Derby, 1-1 or 0-0. And if we go over to Betfair, I'll show you what I mean by dutching. So you would be backing all 3 score lines before the game starts. So 0-0, 1-0 and 1-1. And what you do when you're dutching is these are all obviously offered at different odds. So it's 8.6 for 0-0, 7.4 for 1-0 and 6.8 for 1-1. And you can use a dutching calculator, which you can find easily online, or you can do, do it yourself. You equalise your profit on every outcome by putting a different stake in to account for the different odds. So for 0-0, it's the higher odds. You only have to put £2.92 in to realise the same profit. That's £3.39 will for 7.4, £3.69 will for 6.8. So I've got a real frog in my throat. And this is assuming a £10 bet. So instead of putting a straight £10 bet on the correct score of being 1-1, you put it spread equally across 3. The outcome, the profit will be equal across the 3. So as you can see, if it finished 0-0, we'd have an overall profit of £13.90. If it finished 1-0, £13.88, 1-1, £13.88. So obviously 2p difference, but you can't get it exact. So that's dutching. We'd put those on at the start of the game, and then as the game progresses, the longer it stays 0-0, this price will come in, and this will look like an attractive scoreline. But also, if it's 0-0, so will the 1-0. If a goal goes in, 1-1 might come in. You'll lose your 0-0, but you've still got 2 scores in play, and basically it will fluctuate throughout the game. But you don't have to wait until the end to hope that one of these comes in. Far from it. What I would do is trade throughout this. So I would be looking at it and saying, okay, I've still got 2 scores in play towards the end of the game. I'm going to cash out now because a goal either way might affect my trade. So so that's how you do it. That's a very brief way of doing it. I'll be posting a full dutching video when I get a chance. But this is how you would use the Poisson distribution model most effectively, I would suggest, is by dutching the scores rather than going for the straight outcomes, the win-draw market, or even the unders and overs, because the odds aren't going to be brilliant. You'd use the odds and the unders and the overs to inform your decision on which ones to dutch. So, for example, when I said this one's 70% unders, that's a brilliant one because you really want to know if it's going to be under 2.5 goals. So these are the ones to dutch. You don't need to worry about 2-2 and 3-3 and 3-1 because it's very unlikely to be a high-scoring game. So you know which ones to concentrate. And there's no limit on how many you dutch either. You could put another few scores in. You could say I want 2-0, and I want 1-1. I want 2-1, I want 2-0. You can put as many as you want in, but obviously the more you add, the lower your profits are going to be because you're spreading your stake across more outcomes. I hope that is interesting. A bit of a ramble. I'm sorry I'm recording this quite late on in the day. I'll come back again. I'll carry on this little mini series if it's something that's interesting to people, if we get enough likes and comments. And I would like to, if people are interested, expand this to the rest of the English leagues and hopefully the major European leagues as well. It's a lot of work, I'm not going to lie, it's a lot of work, but if people are interested, I'll do it because I find it interesting. It just takes up a lot of time. Let me know, and good luck with all your bets tomorrow.